Hello, folks. Welcome to another Tip Tuesday. My name is Henry Arth. I'm your product manager over here at IndySoft, and I get the distinct pleasure, honor, and frankly, nobody else gets to do this. I get to tell you about some stuff that's coming in the pipeline for your 13.1 release. That's coming late summer, so really pretty soon here. So these are just a few notes for admins, a few overviews. Some of these things are meant to kind of get you excited. Some of these things are just things to really know because they're gonna be distinct differences for a lot of standard procedures that you use in the software, from the work order system to added procedures to how you use locations and things like that. So just kind of a quick overview of 4 or 5 features of the really probably hundreds, and I would say we have at least twice as many major features as these that I'm going to show you very briefly. So get excited. First of all, the add edit procedures and documents and employee interface, those have been updated. They're no longer wizard step based. And this was kind of a bigger project which came underway because we wanted to use employee procedure trainings. So for a long time, folks have wanted the ability to say, hey, we train our employees on procedures and we want to block them in scenarios or not suggest them for scheduling when they are not trained on that. So to do that, we had to require revisions. So previous to 13.1, we never required revisions for these procedures or documents. And so because they kind of share the same interface, we did it for both of them. Documents will not have trainings on them, but procedures will. So all of this kind of ties into us getting to that point. So when you upgrade your database, for example, we will be creating revisions for you where none exist. So keep that in mind. But as far as the end user is concerned, that shouldn't actually make any changes for them whatsoever. They should be able to update and still use everything as they did before. The employee procedure trainings is something that you turn on per revision, and you can slowly implement over time. So if I go over here, you have procedures and documents, and you'll notice if I open this up, a really kind of just a better looking interface in general. It's much larger. It only has 2 steps. You don't have to click through it a bunch. So when you create a brand new procedure, we're automatically going to create the revision for you. So it'll just take the date that you actually created it, and it'll say you did it, and then it'll show up here automatically. You'll then be able to create revisions where you need to after that. So essentially down here, you've got employee procedure trainings, and these are just associations. It's just we want to make a quick way for you to do this. We're not trying to create a bunch of busy work for you. And again, you only really see this if you start turning this on. This will not be on by default, but if you turn this on, we're basically going to block users from being able to use procedures in events, right? And we are also going to block if those procedures are blocked against and you're not qualified and you try to add a piece of equipment that references it directly, you won't be able to do it there either. So that's going to be compared to your username that you're logged in with. And we're also going to block it at the end of the event in case you sneak one in there in custom scripting. Let's see here. Not too many other things to show here. We obviously have category too. That's a new concept. So we have procedure and document categories. So you can quickly group and associate via the group at the employee level. So we also gave you the ability to create employee procedure trainings, not just from the procedure side, but also from the employee side. They create the same type of data. But if you create a new employee, you're going to probably associate a bunch of procedures. If you add a new procedure, you're going to associate a bunch of employees. So you need it on both sides there. So just a really quick interface here too. Made a few judgment calls about things you'd probably want on this page first, and just additional information here. That's really about it for that feature set, but just know that there's a lot more coming behind that. A lot of efforts for a kind of a revamp of the scheduling module, and maybe using both employee procedure trainings to give you get the right people for the right job, and then as well as some workflow for your masters for scheduling those and looking for conflicts there, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Work order revisions in history. Previously to 13.1, we didn't have histories for anything in the order system, estimates, invoices, or work orders, so that has been added. So if somebody makes a change after the fact, you'd actually be able to see when that happened, who did it. And we're also offering revisions. So revisions are part of another goal for on-site work where, a lot of folks really want to be able to collect a signature and have a final document to present to their customer where their customer has signed it and you've signed it. So this is kind of working towards that goal. So we will have this. This has already existed, the revisions for estimates and invoices, but work orders are always kind of a living document. Something to note here, these are going to generally be turned on, a lot of these features, to allow somebody to create these revisions, but we do have security items in and around this so that you can actually go back to the old functionality. So we had to make some judgment calls there. So convert over if that's a little jarring for you and you kind of want to sneak your way into it with system administrators, you have that capability, and that will be outlined in the documentation as well as the release video. So I guess I could just show you really quickly at the order system. You've got your history, of course. You can see anything that's happened, any kind of field that you change, any kind of charge that you delete, any new charge that's added. You can see who did it and when, and we're using this UTC time, so it's actually just a single field. That's a new kind of concept there for us. Let's see here, over here under documents, when you generate a new work order, it'll actually show up as a historical document with eventual plans to allow kind of a UPS freeform signature on that. After that, we have new location tree conversion options. So we added a location tree a long time ago, I would say maybe 3-4 years ago at this point, and it kind of sat around, didn't get a lot of adoption, didn't provide certain concepts that we thought would be very freeing to not have them for people, but it turns out they still want them anyway. So complete overhaul of this functionality almost entirely. New fields, new tables, new rules, new search capabilities, effective search capabilities, newer interface options for your equipment view when you're actually looking these things up, validation of your actual locations so nobody's creating stuff on the fly, the ability to associate as many employees as you want with a location for the purposes of reporting. So what's not there yet, but what will be coming are alarms for these new location tree structures. And again, it's going to give you a lot of options. I could see mostly manufacturing and multi-site manufacturing facilities using this, but I could also see read-only customers. If they're managing their system in your commercial lab IndySoft system, they can actually have their own location trees and they can't see anybody else's. So if they want to have this kind of complex structure, they can have it. Or not. You can do it either way. Totally new conversion methodology. So if you wanted to try to convert from your crib and bin structure over to your location sublocation, we have very kind of granular specific options for doing that. We've always had options there, but we refined them in certain ways and took lessons from the former conversion utility. And a lot of this was spurred on by the new concept of Indigo. Indigo is going to be our new mobile application that can be purchased per device. It actually supports RFID tags. The first iteration, again, I don't want to go into this too much, but the first iteration will be these little RFID handheld readers, which can basically take inventory of all your assets. But one thing about Indigo, you don't have to use it with RFID. You can use it with barcodes, and you don't even have to have barcodes technically. You can just kind of use it as an extra way to check in equipment, check out equipment. It has a kiosk mode, which will automatically log people out. It's a really simple user interface. And compared to the rest of our product, which we can do just about anything, right? It's a very simple setup. So not a lot of implementation time. Highly recommended for cloud customers because there's no back-end setup for the REST server or anything like that. But the location tree structure, essentially, if you haven't seen it before, we added it back under location options here. Essentially, this interface, we have a lot of the new work was done for location tree setup. So you can say that base locations, meaning the highest level, now can be company specific. So that makes them a little easier to kind of translate from the older structure. So you can convert your old bi-level structure, so you'd have company and then location and sublocation. And then you can technically update equipment if it matches in a specific way. But I think in a lot of scenarios, if you're going to switch over to this, you're probably going to want to consider that you want to kind of revamp your location structure and make it a little more specific and work with this. So again, you can have up to 10 different levels here, and so be very specific and do things a little bit differently. Yeah, not a ton of going on here, but we have new options. So if you come over to this new system and you use the old location tree structure, you'd want to do something like in here, you probably would want to turn off base level location must be a company, and then you would generally be in the exact same spot that you were before. So this search here, again, there's going to be tons of Tip Tuesdays, I'm pretty sure, on this feature, but this is always shown the current location. But now you can see, click through here and see equipment that is underneath any of these locations on the right-hand side. I don't have any right now, so, oh, there we go. I think we actually limited it for the company, but you can see anything that's under there. And then tons of new options in all of your equipment search reports, your equipment finder, to be able to see these fields. And you can see them as if they were actual equipment level fields, even though they're not. So after that, we have equipment categories. This is going to be a big work in progress, like I kind of stumbled over earlier. But equipment categories are now going to be self-defined, meaning if you've ever used these before, they're called master types. Calibration standard types, where we essentially let you have a filter to describe it. Well, maybe a little bit confusing, so we defined that feature set a little bit more, and we're actually we have big plans for the next major release after this to really have kind of an equipment validation structure with this, similar to what we did in location tree structure. Those are still in early phases, of course, but we are going to kind of not give the filter here to not put people, start them off on the wrong foot for that path. So yeah, you can also specify now if an equipment category is specific to masters or calibration standards or not for the purposes of selecting. Again, this all really down the line is going to play into scheduling, right? Knowing conflicts for your equipment, what equipment you should be using, and all these things like that. Again, critical building block for future functionality, maybe something to look into. Finally, the new company tab. So if you're a commercial lab and you are training folks and they take phone calls, maybe they do a number of things, we now have a new company tab here. So I can just start typing in and I can press enter, and I can basically look at the company right here. We'll have a few other options, potentially like service requests, which will be available in certain versions of the software, where you can basically take a phone call and take a service request from a customer stating exactly what they might want you to do. But this can also be hidden, so if you're a manufacturer, you may not want somebody to see this. This is not exposed for read-only customers necessarily or anything like that. And again, you can right-click on here and hide this company view if you don't like it. Anyway, that's the general overview here. I'm really excited about this release. I'm really excited about all the releases coming up. There's a ton of new functionality. I think certainly from our customer advisory boards in the past, I think we're really hitting some marks here. And we hope you enjoy it when we release it in the coming month or two. Thanks so much. Happy calibrating.